Thanks for tuning in. Just do it. JavaScript testing fundamentals. So the things I'm going to cover today are these 5 main things: how test runner and assertion works, how to assert dynamic behavior using mock function, how to test asynchronous code, how to mock code in Jest, and lastly, I'll talk briefly about snapshot testing and how to use it effectively. So first thing is we're going to talk about is how test runner and assertion works. So to answer that question, the first thing we need to answer what is a test? We know when we do manual testing, it's very simple. You write some code, and then you go to test your UI or you make API calls to make sure the code behave as you want it to be. But when you try to write automated tests, what does it mean? Like how can I write a code that able to test another code? So so the definition is actually very simple. A test is something that throws error when our code does not behave as expected. Okay, so yeah, when we talk about automated tests, is as simple as this. So for a test to do this, to achieve this goal, it throws error when our code does not behave as expected. It will always have 2 steps. First, it will run our code under certain conditions, and then after that, it will verify our code behave as expected. If it's not expected, then it will throw error. So you can actually translate this definition like how you do a testing, right? You test the features, let's say a user screen. First of all, what you're going to do, you log in because you want to reproduce the scenario where user is logged in. And then after that, you go to user screen, you verify the thing is there. If it's not there, then you kind of like throw an error to your developer. You raise a ticket, or you just talk to him, say, hey, this does not work as expected. So when we talk about automated tests, it's the same thing. It's just that instead of human do that, we put it in a code to do that for us. So now I'm going to now we understand what's a test. So what is test runner and what is assertion? So now is where we are going to write a very simple version from scratch. So this is an example code I'm going to show you today. This is a simple like npm project. So we have only one dependency, which is a fetch, and then after that we have some def dependency, which is a Jest and Jest type definition as well as prettier. Okay, so now we have a few JS code. The one I'm going to test is first one is this util.js file. So we have this class name function. So what is this class name function? What it does is you can call it. You can call this function and you can pass as many parameters as you want. So you pass a parameter. Let's say you pass a button, and then you pass a button primary. What this function will give you is it will merge these two together as a single class name that you can put to rec. And then the thing about this class name is that let's say you pass it a false or you pass it a null, then it will ignore this false and null. So what is a good thing about this behavior? Because many times in rec we like to have a conditional class, right? We can have like let's say color is equal to primary, then we do this button primary. So let's say if this expression is false, and then this whole expression would return false. And since class name would ignore false and null, then this whole expression will not produce any class name. So this is the use. This is how this class name works. So now I want to write a test for these class names. So I want to write a test for it. So let me create a file. I'm going to call it just simply test.js. And to test this code, what I'm going to do, of course, the first thing is I'm going to import it. Import class name. So now I want to test this. So remember our definition of test is we want to produce run our code under certain conditions. So we need to run our code. So now I want to run my code with the parameter A, B, and C. Okay. So what I expect it to return me is ABC in a string, right? So my expected will be ABC. So now I want this code to throw error when it does not behave like I expect. So I'm going to simply check if result not equal to expected. Throw new error. Okay, that is expected, and then what I receive is the result. Okay, so now I have this, and let me run the code. So now I have Node.js locally, so I can simply run a JS code using Node and put a file name. There's nothing show. Okay, so let me improve this a bit. So what I'm going to do is, if this doesn't throw error, I'm going to console test pass. Okay, then and also when it throw error, I actually want to show like, hey, the error, the test failed. So I'm going to wrap this whole thing in a try and catch, and then I'm going to console log test fails. Okay, then I run it again. So test pass. So let me change my expected. Let's say I write my test wrongly. I write A, B, C, D. Okay, so it doesn't match the expected, it should throw error, right? So we run it again. So yeah, test fails. So we just write our first automated test in JavaScript. So now, but this is not very scalable, because technically you see now I have a try catch. What if I want to have more tests of my class names? I'm going to create another file and then create another file for another test. Okay, this is not very scalable. So what we're going to do is we want to create a wrapper that allows us to define as many tests like this as possible. Okay, so the wrapper will call test. This test has two parameters. First is test name. The second parameter is test code. Okay, so what this test will do is it will try to run the test code. Okay, if the test code doesn't throw error, then it will console log pass test name, and then when it fails, it will console log fail. Okay, test name, and then it will console log the error as well, so it's easy for us to check. Then we have this test function. Now I can wrap this whole thing in a test. So I can test is, let's say, merge class names as expected. Okay. Then I pass. So I declare a test name, which is what I want to test. Then after that, I can wrap all my code inside there. And now I no need the try and catch anymore. Why? Because try and catch is actually being handled in the test utility. So I can save this. So now let me try my utility. Is it working? Okay, test pass. And if I write my test wrongly, then it should fail. Okay, you say fail. Okay, so our test utility allow us to define class in the most scalable way. So now I can write another test, and test like it will ignore undefined and false. So I can pass it undefined. I can pass it false, right? So it should actually still ignore this. You still produce ABC. So let me run my test again. So yeah, then it has this pass. Both tests are pass. So this is like the very simple version of test runner. Okay, you use all the test frameworks. They also expose this test function for you. And this is how it works under the hood. Okay, but this is very simple version. There's many things I don't do. But yeah, just to give you a feeling of like what is those test function do. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you is how to write a simple assertion libraries. So what is assertion libraries? You look at this code, this is actually an assertion because we are making sure this and this is equal. If not, we throw error. So this is what we call assertion. So now I want to wrap this. I want to wrap this code in a reusable function. So we're going to call this function called aspect. Aspect is a function that you would receive one parameter that is called receive. Okay, then it will return an object. So this object there will be many. It will be a list of functions that user can use. Now we're going to return one function called to be. Okay. So to be will receive the expected value. And then here is where we write the code. So I'm going to lazy, I'm going to copy this and put it here. And then when receive is not equal to expected, throw error. Okay, now we have this aspect. We can go up to our code here. Now I can replace my code with aspect result to be. Okay. And to be honest, actually this expected is not much use anymore because the code is so short now. Let me just inline it. Okay, expect result to be ABC. Very readable because it just reads like a normal English. I can do the same here. Expect result to be ABC as well. Okay, now let me run. Okay, my test pass. So this is how. So if you write any JavaScript testing, all the framework you use, they always have this test and aspect. So test is a test runner, as I told you, is a way for you to declare your test and then for your framework to pick up and run it. And then the next thing is the assertion, which very common to use an aspect. So aspect is for you to make sure some result is equal what you expect. If not, it will throw error. When it throw error, your test runner will pick up and then it will console into your console log. This is how you know, hey, which test has passed, which test has failed. Okay. So but so far what we are doing here is we are manually running this code and manually implement those tests and aspect. So I'm going to remove this because we are going to use Jest. So because I already installed Jest, so how I'm going to use Jest now is very simple. I just add one npm script. Let me call it test, and then it will call Jest. Okay. And then after that, I'm just do yarn run test. Okay, what yarn run test do, it will look at your package JSON scripts, see, hey, is there anything declared as test? It match, here is test, then it will run this command. And so then it will run our code. So when you look at this code, right, like, hey, our aspect and test is not there anymore. But this code actually still can run. Why? Because this test and this aspect actually comes from Jest. Jest will automatically inject the test and aspect function for you. And the good thing about that is, you see, Jest able to produce much more better output than me. He actually tell you how many tests pass in total, how many, yeah, which is nicer. Okay, but under the hood, it's just the function that I showed you just now. So this is what Jest do. It help you do this for you. But there are many things that Jest do for us here as well. First thing is, you may ask, hey, how Jest know this file is called, this file is a test? Because just now when we initially, what we do is we use not test.js to run this file. So how Jest know is by default, it will look at the files with the naming convention ending with test.js or spec.js. Okay, because now our file name is test.js, it fits the naming conventions. So just know, hey, this is a test file. Of course, it's configurable what naming convention you want, but yeah, the default one works good for most of the case. Okay, so this is our first test. Now let's look at our next test. Okay, omit function. So what is omit function? Omit function is, if you use Lodash, you probably know a bit about this function. So what it does is it omits some property from your object. Let's say you have an object looks like this. Okay, A B B. Okay, so if you run omit this object and you pass down, maybe you want to omit A. So what it return you is this BB. Okay, then it omit the property A. So you can actually pass down multiple. So if you pass on A and B, then you omit everything. It will just return to you the empty object. So let's write a test for this omit function as well. Okay. So to prove to you like what I say to you just now is correct, I'm going to create another file. Okay. I'm going to create this file called util.test.js. Okay. So first thing, what I'm going to do now is just now I run just run, then it ends. Okay, but I'm lazy to keep running. I want to ask just, hey, keep running. When you see I have file change, right, keep rerun the test again. So in package.json, I'm going to add another script. I'm going to call it test watch, and then it's just calling just with additional flag watch. So now I'm called just run test watch. So if you're not familiar with Yon, don't mind, it's just like npm. So if you use npm, you use npm run test watch, then it will works the same way. So now I run this, and then yeah, then you see the console is not ended. It's still watching all the files. But first it says our test should contain at least one test. Yeah, because we haven't write anything here. So let's write a test. Okay, empty function. And see now I save, then it will rerun again. Yeah, so this is the watch mode of Jest. So now it passed. Okay. Then as I said just now, as long as you fit the naming convention, Jest will recognize both of you are test code. Okay. So now go back to our original intention. We want to test our omit function. Okay. So let's say I have original object that looks like I show you BB. Then would aspect omit. I want to omit key A, and it should left with BB only. Okay, let's run our test. Okay, it says error. Why? Okay, so the thing is, first, what's confusing here is, let's say, let me get these things out first, then we can console. Okay, let me console the result first. Okay, then you run again. So yeah, console is a BB. Okay, is BB, but now you say BB, it still say we fails. Okay, why? Because actually just give you very good error message. It say if it should pass with deep equality, replace to be with to strict equal. So let's follow what it says first. Strict equal. Okay, then it pass. So so why changing this would change the result? The reason being, to be by default it's just like what I show you. We use a triple equal to check two things equal or not. And because in JavaScript, when we put we check equality between object, it will check the identity equality, which means it will compare if these two object is exactly is the same object or not, instead of comparing the value. So if you want to compare the value inside an object, like they have the same property, and for each property they have the same value, then you should use this to strict equal. Okay. So yeah, so let me rename it omit property. Okay, so we learn two assertion from just now, to be and to strict equal, and which is also the most common assertion I use. How to assert dynamic behavior using mock function. Okay, so what is the dynamic behavior I'm talking about here? So in JavaScript, it's very common. We have asynchronous code, and also we have some kind of like callback function, right? So sometimes you pass a function to another function, then the function will call back the function you pass to it. So now if you want to test this kind of function, how do we do that? Okay, because just now what I show you is those pure function in which you call it, it will return you something. Then you can check the return value. But what if the function do more than that? The function, let's say it will like read from your file system, and then it will return you at a later time. So how do we test this kind of behavior? So to do that, let's look at our util function again. So now I have a for each function. Okay, for each function is actually it works like how our array for each, but this is like I write my own. Okay, the reason is for demo purpose only. So we have array, it will loop through the array, and then the callback you pass to it, it will call it, and then it will call it with the each item of your array. So let's see how to test that. So I'm going to import for each. So I'm gonna test for each. So how it works is like this. Now I have an array, and let's say I put 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, and then I use this for each, and then I put array, and then I pass it a function. Okay, so this function, you will actually receive the item. So you will get the item 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, then we can get the result here. Let's say I console log item. Okay, let me save it, and the test will run. Okay, then we can see in console 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, cool. But how do we make assertion about this? How do we make assertion that it actually really call with this parameter? Okay, that's where mock function come into picture. But before that, I'll share with you some tips to use this Just Watch. When it's in a watch mode, right, you can press P, and then after that, you can actually provide a pattern of your test file. So for example, now I have test.js and util.test.js. Every time I change a file, it will run both. But I only want to run only one file, so my test is faster. So I can type util, and then I enter. Then you see now it only run one test. Yeah. So now, yeah, it still pass. Okay. So one way for us to do continue back. One way for us to do the assertion is like this. We can have like we put a array result, and then every time people call it, right, we will push result push item. Right. Then at the end we can do expect result to strict equal 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah, we can do something like this. But it actually is like every time people read this code, it's not so straightforward. So we want to do something like more straightforward. So just give us this thing called mock function. So how you create one is you just like just.fn. So you give your mock function, and then you can pass this mock function into our for each now. Now let us let it run. Okay, nothing special yet. But the good thing about this mock function is we can actually inspect how it has been called by using this function. It has a special property called mock, and then there's a cause. Okay, let's see what is inside here. So we can actually see 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah, so how the mock function being called, right? You actually keep track of the parameter passed to it, and it store it in this mock cause array. So actually we can inspect and we just check. Right. The good thing about this, right, is instead of like you manually implement your own array and tracking, at least now we have a standard way of check how a mock function works. So all mock function, they always have this mock cause that people can inspect. Besides that, another good thing about mock function is you can make assertion like this: expect callback to have been called times 5. Okay, so this is assertion comes from Jest. So you can only use it on mock function. So now it pass, right? So let's say we pass it like another parameter. So this should fail because it will be called 6 times now. Yeah, fails. So expect number of calls 5, but receive number of calls 6. Yeah, so this is mock function. So mock function has many use cases, and there's many ways to customize it. For example, I can actually customize its implementation by passing the parameter. So I can do like console log item. And then what it does now is, other than keep track of the cost, is how it being made, it also like really run this code. So you can see console log also there. Okay, I'm going to remove it. So this is mock function. The next thing I'm going to share is how to test asynchronous code, because JavaScript is a lot asynchronous code. Let's look at a simple example. We have same go to this util.js file. We have this function called wait for millisecond. Okay, so this wait for millisecond, it accepts 2 parameters, millisecond and callback. Okay, what it does is it will return a promise, and then this promise will be resolved after a certain time. Okay, so you use a set timeout to call this function at some time later, and then it will call you will resolve a promise. Then if you pass it a callback, then you will call the callback. So this callback is optional. So now we want to test this wait for millisecond. So let me import it, wait for millisecond, and I want to test wait for millisecond. Okay, so now let me call wait for millisecond. Let's say 50 millisecond. Okay, let me save. Okay, the test passed, but okay, but now we didn't check anything, right? We just know the test passed. We don't know whether it works or not. So for us to do that, we want to make sure it will call the callback. So let me create, like just now, I create a mock function. Okay, then I pass a callback to it. Then after wait for millisecond, I want to expect my callback to have been called 1 time. By the way, if any of you cannot see my screen or anything, just let me know. Even though there's some delay, but I try to accommodate instead of continue. So now, hey, it says expected number of calls is 1, but received number of calls is 0. Okay, so what's happening here? What's happening here is because this wait for millisecond, it use set timeout, right? So yeah, it use a set timeout, means the code will actually run later, not now. So when we run this code, just will run this code, you run, then you check, hey, has callback has been called? The answer is no. Why? Because we need to wait 50 milliseconds later only it will run. So we somehow need to wait for 50 milliseconds, then only we do this checking. How do we do that? Well, because this util.js, after 50 milliseconds, we know the other than the callback will be called, it will also resolve this promise. So we can tell Jest, hey, wait for this promise to be resolved first before you check whether it will call its callback. So for us to do that is we will mark this test function as a sync function, and then we want to await it. Okay, so in the async function, when you do await, then you check, hey, is this a promise? If it's a promise, let's wait for it first. Wait for it to be resolved. Then only continue running. So let me save. Okay, now our test pass. So this is how you test a asynchronous code. Technically, is you want to see, hey, when this asynchronous code finish operating, is there any promise that you can observe? So for our case, we have this promise that we can observe. So we just await for it. Then only we continue running. Okay. So this is how to test asynchronous code. So the next one, how to mock API calls or non-deterministic code. Yeah, so because many times when you have code, we will make API calls, or maybe we have some random function that will give a random string. How do we mock out those cases? Because if you try to test this code, right, the result will be very not reliable. Because for example, you make API call, you need to make sure your API calls is always ready when you run the test, and you need to make sure the network is very smooth. If you have network issue, then your test will fail. So to avoid those problems, what we want to do is we want to mock those things out. So let's see an example. So now I have this service file. Okay, it's called get Pokemon data, and it will make an API calls to this endpoint. So let me just copy paste this endpoint. Okay, so it's a very big JSON. So this endpoint is some Heroku app. It's a very dumb app. It just return you all the Pokemon JSON. So now we want to write a test for this. Okay, so let me write a file called service.spec.js. Okay, just now I say the pattern is .test.js or .spec.js, but you see our test is not running because why? Because just now we have pattern, we say util. So now let me change the pattern to service, and then you will run this service.spec.js. Yeah, it fails because don't have tests. So let's write an empty test first. Make it happy. Okay, pass. Then we need to import get Pokemon data. Pokemon data. So we want to call get Pokemon data. So because get Pokemon data is it is like it make API call, so it's a synchronous call. So let us, what we do is we will need to await. So because we need to do a sync await, mark it as a sync function. Get Pokemon data. Okay. So the first thing we do is always console log the result first. Whoa, it's a very big list, right? Because it's actually making the API is getting all this full list of Pokemon data. Now we are really making the real API calls. Okay, but as I say in the beginning, we don't want this because we don't want to rely on other services. So we want to mock it out. So from this get Pokemon data, we know it will making call using this make API call, and then with this make API call is using a fetch, the isomorphic fetch, which is like fetch works in Node.js. So so now we want to mock this out. So there are two ways to mock it out. First is we can mock this fetch function, or we can mock this make API call function. So mock both would works in this case. I prefer to mock the whole make API call. So now I want to mock it. So the first thing to mock it is let's import the things you want to mock first. So I want to mock this thing, make API call. Okay. So but now I haven't mocked it, I just import it. So now I want to tell Jest, hey Jest, in my code, whenever someone try to get this file, right, replace it, mock it out. How to do that? In Jest is very simple. You just call Jest mock and then the file path. So when you run this, Jest will mock it. Okay, so let's save and see what happened. First thing is it will throw error. Okay, it will say cannot read property then of undefined. Okay, what's happening here? So the thing is, when you ask Jest to mock this file, what Jest will do is it will go to that file and see, hey, in this file, what are the function or constant that has been exported. So in this case, we have exported make API call. And what Jest will do is, when it see a function, it will replace it with the Jest mock function that I showed you previously. So Jest mock function by default, it doesn't return anything. Okay, so it return now. That's why here in our get Pokemon data, we expect this call actually return some promise for us. Well, so now that's why our test failed now. So what we're going to do is I want this mock function to return me the Pokemon data. So what I can do is make API call. Because now it is a mock function, I can replace it using this mock implementation once method in all Jest mock function, and I say, hey, change your implementation to a function that resolves something. So what I want to resolve? I want to resolve Pokemon data. So let me create a mock Pokemon data. Mock Pokemon data. Okay. To make it simple, I just maybe put ID 1, name Bulbasaur, ID 2, name, I forget the spelling, I'm going to simply name it, then resolve Pokemon data. Okay. So now after I mock, let's see what's the result. So you see when now the console log, the result, what we get is something like this. Right? Because we have mocked the make API call instead of making real API calls, we ask it to return the mock Pokemon data. Okay. So when we resolve this value in our service file, when we mock API call, what we get the Pokemons here is the things that we mock. And then it attached the data property. That's why this is the result we get. So now we can finally do the assertion. Okay. Expect result to strict equal data mock Pokemon data. Okay, now test pass. So this is how we mock Pokemon data. So the last thing I want to show you is snapshot testing. It's something that has been added. It's something quite unique in Jest, and it's very popular in rare application, but many times people misuse it. So now I'm going to show you what it is, and I will show you how I think you should use it. So what is snapshot testing? So now look at our code of this service.spec.js. We are asserting the return value looks like this, right? But sometimes if this what do you call this get Pokemon data, those API calls code, right? It can goes very complex. It can go like, hey, merge data from API A from API B, and then there's some special logics transform, and the output total result is like it's totally very different from the input. So many times what we do, right, is what we'll do is let me console log the result. Okay. Yeah, many times this is what we do. Like let me JSON stringify the result, and then wait, let me force it to run again. So when those very complex case, right, what we do is, hey, we stringify, then we copy paste this and paste in our code, right? Paste in our to strict equal. And then next time we change, then we console log again, and then we copy paste again. So the snapshot test, how it works is, hey, instead of you manually console log and you copy paste, let me do that step for you. So to change what we did just now to snapshot testing, we just change this line of code to match snapshot. Hey, let me save it. Okay, so now the test run is say one snapshot return. Okay, then what we realize is, hey, there's a new file here called snapshots underscore underscore, and look at the file. So what is this file? So this file, what it does is it will it has a convention of it has the same name as your test file, and then after that it will use a test name. Then you will say, hey, when they run this test, right, this is a snapshot that it should get. Okay, so this is snapshot testing. So when you commit, you also commit this snapshot file. And then when people have this test, right, what they do is they run the code again. And then it will just pass. Okay. How come just now we have write a file to snapshot? Now we don't have write a file to snapshot again? Because what Jest do is the first time when you run to match snapshot, you will check, hey, is there a snapshot already written for this line, for this match snapshot? If not, you're going to create a new snapshot for you. Okay. After that, the next time it run, when it found a snapshot, you check, hey, is it the same? If the same, then it's pass. Okay. Let's try to change the code so that the snapshot test will fail. So now get Pokemon data, instead of passing it inside the data, I'm going to pass it as Pokemons. Okay. So now let me save it. Now it says fail. Okay. So it says fail because previously what we receive is data. What is snapshot is data. My color scheme here make you cannot see, but actually here it says data. So previously what is snapshot is data. Now what it gets is Pokemon. That's why I say, hey, this does not match. So how to fix this? Well, fix this is very simple. Just like when you console log the case you fail, you just console log again and you copy paste again. Here you want to update a snapshot, you just run u. You just type u, and then it will say, hey, this time if I have a snapshot that doesn't is not matching, then just update it. So now our snapshot updated, and you look at this file now is Pokemons now. Yeah, so this what is snapshot testing? Technically, it's like instead of you manually copy paste a very uh some output, let's just do that for you, so you no need to manually do that. Okay. But I don't use to match snapshot. Why? Because to match snapshot, it's just one line. But actually, it is not so straightforward. Like when people reading this code, right, they wouldn't know, hey, what is this snapshot do? When they read this file, they don't know. So they have to go to inspect the snapshot file, which is the extra step you like, and they need to understand what is this snapshot file for them to read it. So I learned like this. So what I do usually is, instead of use to match snapshot, I use another assertion. It's called to match inline snapshot. Okay, let me save it. Okay, so first, there's two things happening now. First thing is, you can see previously here, I just called to match inline snapshot. I didn't pass anything. What Jest do is it actually put the output and write it here. Okay, so when I read this file, we can actually know, hey, this result is expect to be this. Now this really looks like the copy paste case. I don't need to go separate file. Another thing is it say the snapshot is obsolete. Yeah, because we didn't call to match snapshot now. So let's remove it. Just type U. Then you remove that file. Okay. So so this is what I usually use to match inline snapshot. Okay, you can see this. So so for me is you should, I will recommend you always to use to match inline snapshot instead of to match snapshot. Okay, the reason why first reason is what I told you just now. It's easier for you to read this test and know what it's actually doing. The second thing is to match inline snapshot, right? Force you not to snapshot something that's too big because it's inside your test file. Because one of the problem that I just like I say people misuse to match snapshot testing is because they put a very big things inside this to match snapshot, and because the things that snapshot is very big but it's inside another separate file, people just like it's okay, you know, no people don't really go to inspect the snapshot file. So to match inline snapshot actually force you to not snapshot a very big thing, because when you snapshot a very big thing, like the test is meaningless anymore because people cannot read the test and figure out what goes wrong. Okay, so yeah, the very common case people misuse to match snapshot is in React. People just snapshot the whole application and they say, hey, my test coverage is very high. Yeah, but what they do is they just take the whole DOM and throw it, copy paste there, which for me is a pointless test. So yeah, that's all that I plan to go through today. Let me see the question, try to answer. So there's a question, can you wrap the whole React component with tests? So for React is a bit different because for React, what we do is we render to a DOM and then we want to check the DOM. So you need to use some helper for you to do that easily. It's called React testing library. So if you want to learn more, you can refer to my previous webcasts, which I will talk about how to test in React using Jest. So the one I think it will answer your question. Then Michelle Philip asked a question, how to test a function with library dependency in it. Okay, so to answer this question, you need to understand like what do you think, what's the purpose of test? Okay, is the purpose of test just to test your code, or is the purpose of test to make sure your whole your whole application actually works? For me, it's not the first case. It's a second case. Okay, like some people may think, hey, if let's say you use a third-party library, you should mock out the third-party library. You should only test your code. For me, that's not the way you should do it, because when your code fails, regardless if it is like your code has problem, or is a third-party code has problem, or it is your misunderstand of the third-party code, it doesn't matter, right? The code doesn't work. So whether there is a library dependency on it, I don't think there's a big issue. Like what I'm trying to say is, let's say, for example, right now now I testing this on it. Okay, this on those code, right? Everything here is my own code. Okay, everything here is my own code. But when you see this, right, here I'm using some JavaScript methods like includes. So technically this is kind of like third party, right? It is not my code. It's code of the this Node.js. So, but I don't really worry about that because this is, as long as now this omit function is my code, I want to make sure this whole function works. So like, let's say I use Lodash. Okay, maybe I import Lodash. Okay, for example, let's say Lodash has a, let's say it has, I believe it has something that includes. So let's say Lodash has, let's say it works like this, includes, you call keys omit, for example. So does it matter how I test this omit function? No, it doesn't matter at all, right? So whether you're using third-party libraries, for me, it shouldn't be affecting how you test your code, because at the end of the day, testing your code is just make sure your code works, perform the things you want it to perform, regardless it's using its own code or it's using third-party libraries. Yeah, so this is my answer. So so there's no more question. Let me show you a little bit of extra features of Jest. By the way, I hope I answer all the questions. If not, you can continue asking question before this webcast end. So the next thing I want to show you is Jest can generate coverage report, and it can generate it very easily. So let me create a new npm script. I still call Jest, but I pass down a flag called coverage. So now I can run yarn run test coverage. Hey, some of my tests fail. Oh yeah, because I go to try to use Lodash, which doesn't exist. Yeah, you see in real life, tests really catch a bug. So let me run again. Okay, so now it generates coverage report. Okay, it will say like, hey, in this file, how many lines have covered, how many lines have covered. So we can look at it generate a folder coverage. We look at here, there's an LCOV report, and then there's an index.html. So we can open this file, open with my browser. Then actually it shows all the code that we have imported in our tests and their coverage. For example, this API calls, it says, hey, you actually never test this file at all. You know why? Because we mock this file, ma. Just now we mock the whole file. So this function has not been tested at all. And then here, yeah, everything tested. Here and everything tested. So yeah, now here it says, hey, this is not tested, because it put E. You know what I mean? It's else. So because now we wait for milliseconds, just now we test one use case only, which is we pass a callback. So the else case, we never test it. Like we never pass callback. So yeah, it actually can catch, it not just catch your line coverage, it also catch your branch coverage, which is like the logical if else. Okay, so that's just then anything else? Just I think that's all, unless you have more question. Okay, seems like there's no more question. Okay, I think that's all for today. Thank you for showing up, and yeah, if you have not, remember to follow KL React Facebook page, or you just can subscribe to my YouTube channel. So I'll see you next time. Bye.